Good morning and welcome to All Things Marcellus with me, attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. I am located at 1563 Main Street in lovely Peckville, Pennsylvania, and I am right here with you each and every week at this time on this station to bring you, the landowner, the information you need regarding natural gas development. And of course, and as always, I, Doug Clark, have not, I do not, and I will not. I never have, and I never will represent a gas or pipeline company. I'm here for the Pennsylvania landowner. I represent landowners, royalty owners for such things as including, but not limited to, oil and gas lease negotiations, reviews and consultations of gas leases, pipeline agreements, negotiations, reviews, consultations, royalty payment issues, royalty deduction issues, breach of contract, shut-in wells, Tioga County, shut-in wells. You've been shut in for 8 years or more. I want to hear from you. I'll talk a little bit about that more later. Unitization issues, bad faith unitization, well pad agreements, you name it, estate planning related to oil and gas rights, other estate planning for my clients, also buying, selling gas rights, regardless of the issue, regardless of your location. Give us a call and see if I can help you. Again, regardless of your location, as long as the property or rights are located in Pennsylvania, give us a call. 570-307-0702. Give us a call, see if we can help you. 570-307-0702. I have clients who've been located all across the country. I have clients across Pennsylvania, all gas producing areas. Do not be afraid of the distance. Give us a call and see if I can help you, because we are not getting, the landowners are not getting the assistance they need and not getting the representation they need, and this has got to stop. And I'll tell you this, and this is going to be a big part of the topic, primary topic of the show today. If we don't have enough obstacles and trouble and adversarial relationship going on with the gas company, the pipeline company, to make sure we're not getting taken advantage of as landowners, to make sure that we're getting our fair share, to make sure that we're getting a fair deal. If we don't have enough to battle them and to make sure you're getting treated fairly, well, we may have to also look at the General Assembly of Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania legislature. And so I want to talk about, there was a Senate bill that passed, Senate Bill 694, that passed in the Senate 49 to nothing. 49 to nothing. 49 vote to pass, 0 votes to say no. Senate Bill 694, I believe it was on September 25th of 2019. And I'm going to talk about that today. And listen, this is, as always, the show is an opinion show. But I'm going to offer my opinions today because I tell you, it's so, in my mind, this is so disappointing. It is so disappointing, and it comes off the heels of prior disappointing legislation, which has an enormous benefit to the gas companies. And I'll explain, there's some benefit to the landowner, but whatever the landowner's benefit is, the company's is far more. The company's benefit is far more. But what happens is, and again, I'll explain, in my opinion, the companies say, hey, we can go out and negotiate with people, with landowners, with people who have their property. We could go negotiate with those people, but we're going to have to, in my opinion, treat them fairly in negotiations. We're going to have to negotiate, and they're going to have some leverage that they can use against us, and that's what a negotiation is. Two sides have some sort of leverage. Sometimes the leverage is far from even, sometimes it's close. But the settlement point or the resolution point, it is reached when each party maximizes whatever their given leverage is and does the best they can. So if you have leverage which is weak, you want to maximize whatever that leverage is, and you're not going to get the same if you were in the same exact scenario and you had very strong leverage. You're not going to have the same result. But what you are going to want to do the same every single time is to maximize your leverage in that circumstance. And I talk about leverage because it is beyond critical. I need another word. It's beyond critical. Leverage, leverage, leverage. You need to get as much leverage as you can. You need to understand the leverage that you have. A company is going to want you, if you have a lot of leverage, not to calculate your leverage appropriately. They're not going to want you to know, hey, you have a lot of leverage. So they're going to try to minimize that. They're going to try to minimize it in your mind. Oh, we have the right to do this. Well, maybe they don't have the right. And if they don't have the right, you have significantly more leverage. So you need to, in your underlying gas lease, in your original gas lease negotiations, you need to set yourself up. I say all the time, we want to maximize money and limit operational rights in the future. So when they come back for a pipeline, they come back for a well pad agreement, they come back for a water line agreement. We get more of those now. That we look and we see what leverage do you have from your underlying lease. And if you did a good job, or your attorney did a good job, you're going to have leverage. And then we find out what is the leverage, how strong is the leverage, and what can we do with it. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the process. That's the negotiation process. So again, we initially, in every negotiation, need to identify your leverage. We need to identify the strength of your leverage. We need to identify the company's leverage and the strength or weakness of that leverage. And then we need to employ this knowledge in a negotiation to maximize every benefit we can, using the formula of your leverage, the strength of your leverage compared to the company's leverage and the strength of their leverage. And we need to maximize that. All of those things are steps in the process. And maximizing the leverage too comes in large part from experience in dealing with the company and negotiating with them. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Make sure you join me each and every week at this time on this station for All Things Marcellus. And call the office 570-307-0702. Get information about representation. See if I can help you anything related oil and gas matter. Okay, and of course, only the landowner side. So I'm saying here, step one, small reset. We have a job to do in this process of negotiating with the company. I talked about the different phases and what you need to do to evaluate that negotiation process. So I'm going to talk now about this new obstacle that I keep seeing. Now, this is my opinion. People may disagree, but I think that state legislature is doing us on the landowner's side no real favors. Now, they can disagree and people can disagree and we can respectfully disagree. But my opinion is we're not getting any favors. We're getting the opposite of favors. And I'm going to explain what I mean. And I stand pretty firm in this position. So, if you listen to the show, you hear me talk about drilling advancements in what's called multi-unit well or cross-unit well drilling. And what that is, let me explain. So, normally speaking, when people signed leases, we'll say from 2005 to 2012, or any time up to 2000, let's say to 2014 even, any time in that range, prior to that time, or even prior to the last couple years, frankly. But anyway, the point is this. If you signed a lease You were typically, in these cases, signing leases. Many cases had unit size restriction, meaning how big of a production unit your property could be placed in. Some people call them grids, but they're not really grids, they're production units. So many leases limited the size, the maximum size of a production unit to 640 acres. To keep this easy and simple to follow, we're going to just assume that leases, for our point here now, have restrictions of 640 acres. Now the next thing we're going to do is assume, now again, this is for illustration, that in order to develop a 640 acre unit, the length of the horizontal well from the one end of the unit to the other. Now, please, again, don't hold this. This is just for illustration. I think this will make good sense. So we have a unit. This is what we're going to assume, a 640 acre unit. In order to drill a horizontal well from one end of the unit to the other, it would be a 5,000 foot long well. You know, I like to use nice round numbers. So for a 640 acre unit, we're saying the length horizontally from one end to the other, roughly, would be 5,000 feet long. So when people were negotiating these leases, they were negotiating leases based upon the 640 acre limitation, the type of well pad that would be involved in that type of development, how much it cost to drill these wells, how much production were gathered from these wells. All of these things were factors when these leases were negotiated. It was undoubtedly a factor when you negotiated your lease of whether these wells were going to generate $50 a month in royalty or $1,000 or $5,000. How productive these wells were going to be has to be a factor, an enormous factor. The company is not offering $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 bonuses based on wells or areas for wells that they don't think are going to produce effectively. And they have an idea of how much they're going to produce, and so that puts a cap kind of on what they can possibly offer because they know the money they need to make and what they need to do to operate. So you as a landowner are also factoring in all of these things. It dictates the market. So the market at various times obviously changes based upon where you are, how many companies are interested, the competition, the production, all of those things. However, those are all considered when you negotiate a lease. They're all factored in when the company makes you an offer as to how much it costs to drill a well, how much production they can expect from the well, and what they can expect to offer you. How much does it cost to drill, make these pads? What do they need to be in their position to make the money they want to make? And that's how these leases were negotiated. Behind the scenes, like that's how these numbers are determined based upon the circumstances at the time. And so those circumstances, whether you know it or not, are really a major factor in what offer you received, what you were able to negotiate, and what you ultimately signed for. So now let's fast forward. The multi-unit wells, the cross-unit wells. New technology, new circumstances. And what are these things? What are cross-unit wells, multi-unit wells? Remember my example. We're, for example, saying if you drill a well 5,000 feet horizontally, that's the distance that you would drill to cover a 640 acre unit. Drill out 5,000 feet, that covers one unit. The distance from end to end will say of one unit of 640 acres. However, the technology now, instead of stopping the well at the end of the unit at 5,000 feet, the technology is improved and the companies can continue to drill instead of stopping at 5,000. They can go out another 5,000 feet into a second unit. So again, using our example, you go out 5,000 feet, that portion of the well is in a unit of 640 acres. Instead of stopping the well at the end of the unit, you keep it underground in the, we'll say, Marcellus formation, and you drill into a second unit and you go out another 5,000 feet. All now you have one long 10,000-foot well. Instead of covering one unit, that well was underground all the way through the first unit and all the way through the second unit, which is also, we'll say, 640 acres. And then it's possible that well could go out another 5,000 feet and go all the way through a third unit. So instead of one well of 5,000 feet covering one unit, the company now has the ability to drill one well out 15,000 feet, in our example, and cover 3 separate units. That's an amazing advancement in technology. That allows companies to create less pads, construct less pads. That saves them money. That allows the company to not pick up the drill rig and move it around to 3 separate well pads to drill 3 separate units, but they can keep the well rig on one pad and drill through 3 separate units without ever moving the drilling rig. That's an incredible savings for the company. Also, to drill these longer wells, it is cheaper on a per foot basis, meaning to drill a well 5,000 feet or to drill it 15,000 feet, it is cheaper to drill longer on a prorated basis, meaning my understanding, and I'm told this by industry, it's more difficult. The real difficulty, the expense, is going down vertically with the casing and the cement. You don't have to do that 3 separate times for the well going into each of the 3 units in my example. You only do it once, and you go down and you drill it out 15,000 feet in my example. Another benefit to the company, when you're drilling a well and the edge of a unit from one edge to the other, you can't actually drill the well so it's like a letter L, meaning you go straight down and take a 90-degree angle horizontally. No, it looks more like a fish hook. So whenever you drill a well, in many cases, the company is not accessing gas that's directly below the well site because they have to do a fish hook. So many times they're missing that gas. But if they are staying in the Marcellus zone and they drill out 5,000 feet, and now they're going to the second unit, well, they're not missing any gas. They're getting end-to-end gas, which is more than what they're getting now, which is a great benefit for the company. Now, all of these things have some benefit to you also, but boy, do they have a benefit for the company. So, the company says, hey, we may not be able to do this under the leases because we have restrictions in these leases. And some companies think probably they can't do it. Some may think they can. But certainly, there's a huge question whether you can drill these multiple unit wells or cross-unit wells under the majority of these existing leases. And quite frankly, I don't think you can. So, what does that mean? People out there already see it. You've heard me talk about it. Companies approach people and say, hey, we'd like to get your consent, your approval. We have a document we want you to sign to allow us to drill a multi-unit or cross-unit well. And then you get that document and you say, hey, I hear that guy in the radio. I know I'm not going to just sign documents. I don't know what they say. I'm going to make sure I do at least a review and consultation. And you say, hey, wait a second. I found out that some companies are offering some nice compensation to execute these agreements. This may be an opportunity because I only signed for 25, 50, 100, even 500 or 1,000. Or I signed for 12 and a half or even 50. Maybe these are chances that I can do better. So we start negotiating these. And I can't get into details because of confidentiality, but I can tell you that we have done some really great things, in my opinion, and the client's opinion as well, for people who had these multiple unit well, cross unit well agreements presented to them. We have negotiated them to a tremendous benefit to a group of people. And of course, the companies don't like it, but they still are negotiating because they're still going to make a lot of money. And they're negotiating fair deals. And then, ladies and gentlemen, Senate Bill 694. I'll talk about it after this break. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Join me each and every week at this time on this station for All Things Marcellus. And give us a call, reviews, consultations. If you have a cross-unit well, multiple unit, or multi-unit well, anything, 570-307-0702. I do these all myself, in person, by telephone, 570-307-0702. Call today. I'll be right back. Welcome back to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Remember to join me each and every week at this time on this station for All Things Marcellus. And of course, and as always, I do not represent gas or pipeline companies. Hopefully that comes across. But I represent landowners all across Pennsylvania and landowners located in other states with property or gas rights in Pennsylvania. If you are given any document or you're approached by a gas company, pipeline company, give us a call. Reviews and consultations are a great way to start. Get the information you need early. Don't agree to something. You get stuck into something. And we got to stop signing these bad agreements. So give us a call. Learn about reviews and consultations. Usually take 1 to 2 hours. I do most of them by telephone, but everybody is welcome to come to the office. And give us a call again, 570-307-0702. 570-307-0702. All right. So, like I say, if we don't have enough problems fighting with the gas companies, in my opinion, we have a problem at this time with this bill with the legislature. So this is Senate Bill 694. And I'm going to read it. I'm going to go through it. And what it deals with is it deals with multi-unit wells and cross-unit wells. So if you just heard the last segment, I talked about how I have been able to, with many clients, negotiate very favorable benefits, in my opinion, to their existing lease in order or in exchange for the client, landowner, signing a document, either a consent or a lease amendment, but a document that would allow the company to drill a cross-unit or multi-unit well. Now, what we do is they're approached with this agreement and we see, okay, what can we do with this? Now, I'm going to explain that different companies treat these differently. However, I have received offers, I can't get into details, but this has been, these multi-unit wells or cross-unit wells for many of my clients has been a wonderful thing because it's given them an opportunity to go back and try to improve their prior situation. So, companies don't like that. So what do? Well, they don't want to negotiate with you. They don't want to negotiate what would be a fair market deal. What they want to do is they want to reduce their costs by having less pads. They want to hold more acreage by drilling single wells. They want to drill longer wells more cheaply. They want to reduce any truck traffic and gasoline and traffic costs, insurance costs. They want to reduce those costs, and they want more productive wells. And they want to take advantage of all this improved technology, and they want to be able to drill, which they feel may be in violation of your lease, in order for them to make more money. In order for them to make more money and not have to negotiate with you to share this increased benefit from new drilling technology, improved technology. That's, again, all of this is all my opinion, but boy, I believe it. So that's what the company wants. They don't want you to get a piece of this new pie that drilling technology, improvements in drilling technology have opened up. They don't want you to be able to negotiate or be involved in that. So what do? Well, they can either drill the wells and say, well, sue us or not. Some companies have. Or they can negotiate with you. Or maybe there's a third option. Maybe they go to the General Assembly of Pennsylvania. Maybe they go and they start lobbying the legislature and say, hey, we want to drill these cross-unit and multi-unit wells. We want to drill these because we're going to have less pads. It'll be less activity on the ground. We want to drill these because it'll be less truck traffic. So they tell the legislature these items that sound pretty good. And then they say, here's the type of bill we want passed. Or, again, something to that effect. So, these are, again, benefits to the company. They go to the legislature. They're lobbying the legislature to pass these bills. And then here we go. Here's Senate Bill 694. Introduced by Yaw, K. Ward, Udachak, Fontana, Martin, Reagan, and Brown. It was amended on its third consideration and was on September 24, 2019. This Senate Bill 694 passed the Senate in Pennsylvania by a vote of 49-0. 49 voted yes to this in the Senate. 0 voted no. And here's the bill. So, it says, Section 1, Section 3211 of Title 58 of Pennsylvania Consolidated Statutes is amended by adding a section to read. So here it is. This is an addition to the Pennsylvania Code. It's entitled Section 3211, Well Permits. Subsection N states, cross-unit drilling. If an operator has the right to drill an oil and gas well on separate leases or units, the operator may drill and produce a well that traverses, by horizontal drilling, more than one lease or unit. So they're saying that they could drill through 1 unit, 2 units, or more. It has no restriction on how many units, none. More than one lease or unit. So if technology improves to 50,000 feet, get ready for that. Subsection I. This is reading from this bill. The operator reasonably allocates production from the well to or among each unit the operator reasonably determines to be attributable to each unit. So, there we go, operator. We'll leave it up to you, gas company. You decide the amount of gas that's attributable, reasonably determine. You, operator, you reasonably determine how we should attribute the gas to each unit. Goes on. The operator may, word is may, allocate production on an acreage basis for multiple units, provided the allocation has a reasonable correlation to the horizontal wellbore in each unit. Well, there we go. They can do it this way if it's reasonable. Number 2, Subsection 2, the 330-foot location requirement in Section 6 of the Act of July 25, 1961, known as the Oil and Gas Conservation Law, shall not apply to unit lines traversed by a conservation well. Due to the complexity of that provision and the need that it's not really relevant for what we're talking about, what I want to talk about today, I'm going to ignore that section for now. Subsection 3. Nothing in this subsection shall be construed to, 1, authorize an operator to drill an oil and gas well that is not subject to a valid lease or royalty agreement. Let me pause there for a second. Wow, that's something. Nothing in this section authorizes a company to drill if they don't have a lease. Again, nothing in this section authorizes an operator to drill an oil and gas well that is not subject to a valid lease or royalty agreement. Well, thanks for putting that one in there. Subsection 2, nothing in this subsection shall be construed to automatically expand or diminish the current surface rights of an operator to include operations related to an existing unit or any well drilled between the existing units. That's the bill, guys. That bill passed 49 to 0. 0. 0. Not one senator thought, hey, this isn't really a good deal for landowners such that I should not vote for this. And again, these are my opinions, but I'd gladly debate and talk with anyone as to why I have the opinions I do. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. I represent landowners and only landowners. These are my opinions. This statute passed, it's not a statute, I take it back. This bill, Senate Bill 694, passed without a single vote in opposition. This bill says that the company doesn't need to come out and ask your permission to either amend your lease or to get your consent to drill these multiple unit wells. This means that you don't have any negotiation or leverage power whatsoever to negotiate whether a multi-unit well or cross-unit well can be drilled under your property into a unit and most likely from your property. And there's not a dang thing you can do about it if this passes and gets signed into law. Nothing. So here you are. Here are these groups of people. I can't talk about what the benefit is due to confidentiality, but I have a group of people, I have a few groups of people that have had, in my mind, a tremendous benefit. And why were we able to do this? Because the pie is big enough for the landowner to get a slice. That's why. Because the drilling improvements, the technological improvements, the better wells, all of these things that have changed since the market when you signed your lease have created a larger pie. A larger pie now exists going forward. But you're not going to get any benefit from that larger pie other than, hey, maybe there's some gas that's produced and you get a little more gas. Maybe, but maybe not. But here's what we know. The drilling costs go down. The water costs go down. The construction costs go down. There's more areas that the wells can hit. Every one of those items results in direct cash savings to the company. Where is your benefit from that? Well, listen, if they have improved drilling technologies that they can use and implement and stay within the bounds of your gas lease, more power to them. That's our deal. You negotiated the contract. They negotiated the contract. They want to change the contract. They should come to you to change the contract. And they have been. But now the legislature steps in, or is stepping in, hasn't done yet, just passed the Senate. They step in and say, no, You don't have to go to the people anymore if this gets passed. 49 to none. 49 to none. 49 to none said, you company don't need to go to the people anymore. Here's some legislation. You drill it. You do what you think is reasonable in paying. There'll be less truck traffic. We'll justify it that way. 49 to none. Is there any one of those guys or women who talked to somebody that said, hey, I got a pad on my property. I don't want multiple unit wells and cross unit wells to be drilled from my property. Hey, I negotiated this 640-acre lease, and I negotiated to be developed as an individual unit. I didn't negotiate it for you as a legislative body to change my personal contract. Oh, and by the way, when you talk about helping the landowner, what is the landowner getting of this? Whatever happened to, we're going to pass laws that stop deduction, guaranteed 12.5% at the wellhead. Where are those laws? Where are they at? They're not in Senate Bill 694. They're not. And I'm going to tell you, I never even thought this was going to happen. I was going to get this. But I'm going to tell you another thing. You wait till you hear this next story. He's going to say, and listen, I know the arguments on the other side. I know exactly what they'll say. But I know the arguments on our side, and I see what's happening, and I see the size of the pie, and I see that they're just saying, keep giving us more pie, and don't give it to the people, that being the companies. And so instead of coming to you and negotiate a fair market agreement, they go to the legislature, and remarkably to me, again, all of this is my opinion, but remarkably to me, 49 to nothing vote in favor of it. I'll be back after this break. I need to cool off. Welcome back to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Make sure you join me each and every week at this time on this station for All Things Marcellus. And unfortunately, the break has not calmed me. Fortunately, unfortunately, whatever you see, whatever you prefer, has not calmed me down. Here's the deal. You know, this is horrible in my mind, but let me tell you, it's not the first time. It is not the first time. It is not the first time that that companies have said, hey, we would rather not negotiate in a fair marketplace with landowners. We would rather, because it's going to cost us money. We want all the pie. We want them to have the littlest piece of pie possible. So we don't want to negotiate with them. So what do we do if we can't reach an agreement with them for what we want, and we don't want to negotiate with them? What are we going to do? Well, the market, you would ultimately reach an agreement and develop it at what the appropriate market point would be. And I believe that's what I was seeing in the negotiation of these multi-unit wells were resulting in many cases very nice benefits to the landowner. The companies don't like that. They don't want you to have the benefit. So again, they don't want to have to negotiate with you, so they go to the legislature. But like I said, this isn't the first time. Flashback, July 9, 2013, the governor signs Senate Bill 259 into law. So in that bill, here's the deal there. Same principle. In Western Pennsylvania primarily, gas leases were negotiated for decades, and they specifically did not include language to allow your property under the lease to be pooled or unitized with any other property. It was specifically left out because Western Pennsylvania leases, you would drill a vertical hole down into the ground. And whatever gas migrated to that hole, even if it came over from your neighbor's property and migrated into that well, the gas belongs to the landowner with the well on their property. So even if you put the well right at the edge of your property and by your neighbor's property, all of the gas would come to your well, that came to your well would be yours, and you got all the royalty. So you did not want pooling and unitization. So that was left out of hundreds and hundreds of leases on purpose. So if you didn't have pooling and unitization language in your lease, the companies were not allowed to combine your property with the neighboring or other properties. And that was good. That was good. So, then the invention of new technology, Marcellus horizontal drilling. Better way to develop, drill horizontal. Well, the situation is that you, in virtually all cases for horizontal development, must pool and unitize properties together because you need to drill out horizontally thousands of feet in order to make the well profitable. So here's what we had in Western Pennsylvania. I was involved in it. I represented family members even in this, but I had other clients as well, where their leases did not allow for pooling and unitization. So what happened? Here's what happened then. The companies would approach the landowner and ask them to amend their lease to allow the lease to be pooled or unitized with other properties. Well, the people said, oh, okay, I'd like to do that. But one of my neighbors up the road who wasn't under a lease at all was just offered $3,000 for a new lease and 18% royalty. Since my lease doesn't allow for pooling, and this lease was signed in 1950 and allows for full deductions and all kinds of everything else that can benefit the company, I would like something in return for allowing you to pool and unitize my property. So now the landowner has some leverage to negotiate. Now, this person has a lease, yes, but it's a small, shallow gas lease that's literally giving them free gas and very little else on top of that. Very little else. Like hundreds of dollars a year, if that, in many cases. So they say, okay, we'd like to negotiate. My neighbor got $3,000 and 18%. I'd like to get that too. And they said, well, you already have a lease. Well, maybe I can get 15% and $2,000. But at least let me negotiate and get a benefit because you have my lease for the last 50 years. It has never paid any money. And now with this development of the horizontal drilling, you're going to make a lot of money. And I think I should get a bonus or I should get increase in royalties or changed in royalty calculation because I'm going to give you the right to develop my property by giving you the right to pool and unitize my property. I'm going to give you that right. Otherwise, my lease is worthless. So I have some leverage. You have some leverage. Let's get a deal done in the market. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. So I personally involved in these. We're negotiating, saying, hey, look, you can't develop this. These poor guys, they've never got a bonus. They got the lowest royalty rate in the world. You're going to make so much money. At least give us 15%. At least give us some kind of money per acre. Well, if you don't want to deal with the landowner, what do? My opinion, you go knock on the doors in Harrisburg. And so this bill, in 2013, the companies go and they say, hey, we need to get something done. We don't want to have to go out and renegotiate or negotiate and give these guys better deals because we can't develop the lease. We're going to make all of this money because we're paying 12.5% and don't have to pay another bonus. So how can we solidify that? Let's change the law. Let's change the law. And that's what they did. That's what they did. They passed Senate Bill 259 and signed into law in July 9, 2013. And what that law did was say that if you as a company hold a bunch of leases and you have the right to develop the leases, even though those leases do not have language allowing pooling and unitization, you now have statutory authority to pool and unitize these properties together without having to ever negotiate, without having to pay any additional royalty percent, without ever having to go into the free market and negotiate with people for rights you don't have. So we go to the legislature. And this killed me. I talked about, I've been doing the show since 2010. This show, All Things Marcellus. I talked about this at the time, and here it comes up again. And look, why should I be surprised that this cross-unit well bill passes in the Senate by 49 to none? When back in 2013, Senate Bill 259 passed the Senate 50 to 0. 50 to 0. I want to know this. Who were the guys in these western counties, ladies, guys, people, in these western counties, western townships that voted for this? Did they understand it? And if they did, I'd like to have a conversation with them to explain to me why in the world it was in the best interest of the people, not to be able to negotiate to give the company a right that it didn't otherwise have. Why was it better for you as the governmental agencies to pass laws giving companies rights and essentially, in my opinion, and I believe this, changing negotiated contracts? And again, where is the legislation benefiting the people? Where's the legislation saying, hey, you can't take these deductions? Where's the legislation saying 12.5% or guaranteed minimum royalty is at the interstate pipeline connection? I don't know. People call me, they tell me about it. I don't see it. I don't see it anywhere. But I see these. I see these passing. These two bills. 99, 2 votes, 159 to nothing, 149 to nothing. That to me, I could be wrong, but to me, that's a disgrace. To me, that's a disgrace. And I don't understand it. I don't understand it. And I'd say to people, talk to your representatives. Explain this. And I'm going to explain, I'm going to tell you what I think is their explanation here in the last segment. I'll be right back. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Give me a call for representation, but I have to do this show on this subject because it's killing me. 570-307-0702. I'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Remember, I'm talking a lot about this Senate bill and the legislative activity. Any and all oil and gas representation, give the office a call, 570-307-0702, 570-307-0702. We got to stop signing these agreements. Now, back to this cross-unit, multi-unit well issue. So here's the deal. Here's the sell point from the company's side. Here's how, if I were the company, I would sell it or attempt to sell to the General Assembly. I'd say, hey, guys, we're able to construct less well sites by drilling these multi-unit wells, which means that there'll be less disturbance in game lands, in the conservation lands, and less disturbance in landowners' property. Well, that sounds good. Okay, that sounds good. Also, if we have to truck water to a well site, it will reduce the amount. We won't have to go to all of these different well sites, and we won't have to have as much truck traffic. Also, we won't have to move the rigs around as much, and that will make the roads safer, less roadway wear or tear. We could also have better producing wells, which would result in more revenue, which would result in more tax dollars for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Those are some of the things that I would be pointing at. Now, every one of those items results in much more money for the company. Less well pads, less truck traffic, longer wells, the ability to hold more acreage more easily, so less leases expire. All of these things, staying in the pay zone longer, drilling these longer wells, all of these things are occurring now and weren't occurring 10 years ago or whenever you negotiated your lease. So again, that's why I say there's a bigger pie now. There's more money to be made by these longer wells. And the leases apparently preclude it because the industry goes to the General Assembly to pass a law that says we can do this without having to negotiate with people. So already, one of the companies that I've been dealing with and negotiating these is saying, hey, well, we're going to have to reconsider this, and we're looking at, how we're going to do this as we go forward. And they're going to delay, I imagine, to see if this thing passes, and then it's over. So this really nice benefit that a group of people were able to get over the last year or two is going to be there for them, but it's going to be gone going forward. Gone. And the companies would have continued to negotiate, and agreements would have been reached for cross-unit wells and multi-unit wells, and people would have got the best benefit they could out of the leverage through the market. But the energy industry successfully to date has lobbied the General Assembly and specifically the Senate. My opinions, all my opinions, opinions show. And they passed this bill 49-0, saying that they can drill these cross-unit wells and they don't need to get your permission under the circumstances if they own these leases. That is just not good in my opinion. Not good at all. But what I really, and again, it baffles me how it's 49-0, that there wasn't one person that said, hey, what about the guy with the pad on his property? What about the fact that this, landowners that, sign leases in poor market conditions may have a chance to improve their situation, that we can help our constituency who are human beings who are voting for us, our constituency. Now, you can argue, well, we're helping because it's going to lead to more production more quickly, but that would have occurred, in my opinion, anyway, and it would have occurred after landowners were able to maximize their leverage and negotiate to allow multi-unit or cross-unit wells. And I also, what if the first unit that you're in a 2-unit example, what if there's some sort of geological abnormality in unit 1 so that unit is half as productive as the second unit is? Is it fair that you share all the gas equally between unit 1 and 2 if they're the same size, that you attribute it equally? How do you do that? And I'm not even offering an opinion. I'm just saying that these are issues. Were they talked about? Were they considered? Did they talk to landowners? Did they talk to landowner lawyers? Is anybody? I mean, this has been a really nice potential benefit for quite a few people that I'm aware of. And it's going to go away if this keeps going. And again, it's a shame. And it's the same thing. What really has me so upset too, it's the same thing that happened in Western Pennsylvania for all of those leases that precluded pooling. So all those companies got to maintain leases that they paid literally probably about $5 an acre for, 12.5% royalty and full deductions. And they don't have to pay the landowner another dime because the legislature, in that case the Senate, passed the bill 50-0 to allow that type of forced, which is no doubt, I'll call it, it's forced pooling properties that otherwise could not be pooled together. So we shouldn't be surprised. This isn't the first time. But again, this is just past the Senate 49-0 on September 24th, 2019. On October 15, 2019, it was referred to the House Environmental Resources and Energy Committee. So it's up to you guys. I'd suggest maybe talking to your local representative and find out what this is about. Find out why they think this is good for you and your neighbors, and try to make your voice heard. But I leave that up to you guys. And I hope you do. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. I'm up against it, as often is the case. But remember, I do not, have not, and will not represent gas or pipeline companies. We need to stop signing bad agreements. Put down the pen, pick up the phone, give us a call, reviews, consultations, 570-307-0702, all oil and gas representation. Have a great week, everyone.